It's racing through the cosmic void, a blazing visitor from another galaxy.
Something changed when 3I Atlas slipped into the inner solar system again. Everyone felt it, even before the data went public. A faint shift in tone from NASA, unusual silence from ESA, and then a sudden, unexplained spike in military classified telescope time.
Well, the world stares skyward. Europe launches its first ever planetary defense drill as interstellar visitor 3I Atlas barrels through the solar system.
For weeks, observatories that normally stream open data to the public went dark. Tracking stations switched off real-time logs. And then, quietly, with no announcement, the largest planetary defense drill in human history was activated. It involved more than a dozen space agencies, multiple militaries, and several instruments that aren't supposed to exist. And yet no one will publicly say what triggered it. But people who study these things noticed one detail hiding in plain sight. The activation happened exactly 12 hours after 3I Atlas made an unexpected course correction.
The question is it planning to not only probe these planets, but perhaps even release probes that will visit the Earth?
A shift so tiny that most astronomers missed it. Yet it was real. A fractional deviation in trajectory that shouldn't be possible for a free-floating interstellar object. Comets don't maneuver. Asteroids don't adjust their orientation. But 3I Atlas did, and every deep space tracking radar caught it. The agencies responded instantly.
Astronomers call it 3I Atlas, only the third known interstellar object ever detected. And it's just brushed inside our cosmic neighborhood, a visitor from outside solar system.
The new paper analyzing the event calls it an anomalous non-gravitational acceleration, but the phrasing is a distraction. What they mean is, something nudged it, something acted on it, and nobody knows what. That's when the drills began. First, the U.S. Space Force repositioned 3 surveillance satellites into high-inclination orbits. Japan moved Hayabusa Sisa 3's ground control into blackout mode. The European Space Agency abruptly shut down public camera feeds from several tracking facilities. And in a move that stunned the planetary science community, NASA declared a Level 4 contingency simulation, the highest tier of planetary defense preparedness ever activated outside of official impact scenarios. Nothing like this happened for Oumuamua. Nothing like this happened for Comet Borisov. Only 3I Atlas gets this treatment. The public didn't notice the next part either. The United States, Europe, and India synchronized their kinetic impact testing schedules. They moved launch windows. They retasked rockets. They ran deflection modeling scenarios at a scale normally reserved for Hollywood disaster movies. On paper, it was training. But the sheer coordination of it, the global precision of the timing, suggests these drills were not drills at all. They were rehearsals for something that agencies refuse to describe. To understand why, you have to look at what 3I Atlas actually did. During its approach, the object began emitting a strange polarization signature, light reflecting in patterns inconsistent with any previously cataloged interstellar body. Spectrographs picked up oscillations, not signals, not communication, but rhythmic variance, almost like a heartbeat, in the way the reflected light pulsed.
Europe has announced the launch of largest planetary defense exercise ever conducted.
At first, researchers assumed instrumental error. But when 5 separate observatories on 2 continents detected the same modulation, the error theory collapsed. The new analysis paper calls these oscillations coherent reflectance fluctuations. But the subtext is clear. Something on the object's surface is structured, too regular, too repeated, to be explained by random mineral patterns. And then came the spin anomaly. The rotation rate of 3I Atlas slowed down. Again, something no comet should do while it's leaving the sun. It should speed up as it loses mass. Instead, it stabilized, almost as if dampened by internal mechanics. That was the moment when military satellites locked onto it. Why? Because once you rule out cometary physics, asteroid physics, thermal jets, and mass loss, you are left with the possibility that the object behaves more like a rigid engineered body than a loose rubble pile. Planetary defense agencies don't gamble with that possibility. They prepare. Behind the scenes, the drills got bigger. The US ran a full-spectrum simulation involving all three kinetic intercept branches. China activated its Sky Shield protocol, normally reserved for space-based missile threats. South Korea tested rapid ascent profiles. France and Germany re-ran their early warning coordination exercises. Australia switched its deep space radar arrays into continuous track mode, consuming enough power to light a small city. All of this for an object NASA still publicly calls a comet-like interstellar body. But the strangest sign came from the asteroid redirection facility in California, the same one used during the DART mission. It suddenly stopped all tours, cleared personnel, and placed its impact modeling team on a 24/7 rotation. No explanation, no statement, just a hard shutdown of public access followed by non-stop simulations. Something about 3I Atlas triggered it. Later, leaked logs indicated that the object passed through a gravitational gradient near Mars and once again shifted course. But this shift aligned with a theoretical model of mass relief vectoring, something associated with controlled orientation changes. The deviation was tiny, barely measurable, but it matched the signature of intentional torque compensation. Again, comets do not do that. So the agencies doubled the scale of the drills. A classified briefing circulated among several allied governments. Multiple near-Earth object (NEO) working groups received mandatory participation notices. And one observatory in Chile that had been tracking 3I Atlas in high resolution suddenly stopped all public releases. Without reason, on the exact night the object crossed a velocity threshold previously thought impossible for non-propelled bodies. Then came the strangest rumor. Multiple deep space radar facilities detected a momentary shadow, an unexplained absence in radio return. For about 0.9 seconds, 3I Atlas reflected nothing, as if it absorbed the radar, or redirected it, or phased out of detection range altogether. These facilities have never simultaneously misread an object before, yet all three reported the same anomaly within the same narrow time window. That specific moment is when the Planetary defense drill escalated into full coalition mode. Insiders now say the simulation scenario, though never stated publicly, modeled an object whose origin is unknown, whose structure is unknown, and whose behavior defies gravitational predictions. The exercise involved interception protocols, redirection testing, fragment risk assessments, global communication breakdown planning, and even civilian grid impact simulations. Planetary drills are normal. This scale is unprecedented. What made governments nervous wasn't the idea of an incoming threat. The object was never on course to hit Earth. What terrified them was the possibility that 3I Atlas was responding to forces we have not identified, that it may be interacting with space differently, using physics we don't understand. And there's one more detail the agencies can't explain. A faint thermal signature was detected along one of the object's elongated surfaces, far too warm for a body moving away from the sun. No sublimation, no vents, no dust tail, yet temperatures inconsistent with deep space cooling were recorded. The signature was stable, repeating, and locked to a singular face of the object. Natural bodies don't radiate heat directionally unless something inside them is generating it. That is the moment the White House, ESA, JAXA, CNSA, and ISRO all elevated their internal threat posture to the same level. What made 3I Atlas different from every other interstellar visitor isn't that it looked strange or behaved strangely. It's that every time scientists explained one anomaly, the object produced a new one. Every hypothesis failed, every model broke, and the final paper concludes with a line unprecedented in the history of planetary astronomy. 3I Atlas exhibits dynamic behaviors inconsistent with any naturally occurring interstellar class currently known. That sentence alone justified the global drill. Because if something out there is capable of defying natural classification, moving in ways that suggest internal mechanisms, and altering its reflectance signature as if responding to external observation, then agencies have no choice but to prepare for the scenario they hope never comes. Nobody is admitting why the drill happened, but the timeline speaks for itself. 3I Atlas shifted course. Agencies blacked out data. Polarization patterns emerged. Thermal signatures appeared. Deep space radar lost it for less than a second. And the largest planetary defense rehearsal ever staged began within hours. If this was truly just a comet, none of that would have happened. Something else is going on, and everyone at the top knows it.